Man, respectmyregion.com, back with another episode of the RMR Podcast. Today's episode, actually, the 132nd episode, folks. Our journey today powered by nobody except Vuber. Big shout out to Brittney here. B Rose, as you know, as we call you, you know what I'm saying here. Director of Sales for Vuber Technology. You guys started in Seattle, now you're in Spokane.
Yep. I started in 2014 in Seattle, and we relocated here in 2021.
What a journey it's been. And I can say that I've taken the journey out there. I was recently there with you guys. We did a podcast episode. Your guys' CEO, Brandon, was we had a conversation at y'all's office. We talked a lot about Quartz technology. We talked about your guys' patents. We talked about your guys' goals and missions. And we scheduled this episode today to help bridge the gap of understanding between what all that really is, how it applies in today's culture. That was a 2024 interview. It was only 2 months ago, but it's a whole new year. People are already starting to activate their new businesses, their new product lines. They're starting to figure out what they're going to do 6 months from now. Right?
Yep, exactly.
So I'm excited to have you on as a guest today, Brittney. First and foremost, how are you? How are things? How is Spokane? What's going down in your world?
Things are great. We've had no snow, so that's kind of nice, but I feel like it's coming. So, wow. But yeah, winter's been good. The start of the new year's been fantastic. We've got some really fun things in the mix for 2025 that I'm super excited about. And yeah, life's good.
Now, this is your first podcast episode, so to just get some of the nerves out of the way, why don't we break through the introduction? Obviously, you're the director of sales, Vuber Technologies. You guys specialize in vapes. Go ahead and give me the quick rundown, so you feel like we don't miss that and skip it. And then I got some fun questions for us to dive into today. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been with Vuber for a little over 3 years and started as our office manager and worked my way up to director of sales here. I'm super excited to be in this role because I absolutely love networking and love working with people. And so 2025 for Vuber, I think, is going to be a really exciting year. We offer premium hardware options for dispensaries and producer processor side of things as well. So there's a couple different revenue streams here. So we're talking retail. We have a patented line of vaporizers called the Pulse line. And that's the limited edition USA Pulse.
America.
Very patriotic. So that line of vapes reads the resistance of your cartridge. It sets the voltage for you based on that resistance and then tapers down as you draw. So based on that viscosity, it's going to set the appropriate voltage and taper.
So I just put this in like any other one.
Yeah.
And it's going to what's the no burn, never burn?
Never,
what is it?
Never burn is what we have patented. And yeah, it'll set the appropriate voltage and taper down every 2 seconds as you draw so that you're not overheating your oil, burning your wick, not getting, icky taste. You'll get a smooth head every time. It's fantastic technology.
It's pretty interesting, and I will co-sign it. I definitely have learned a lot over the years about vapes, and one of the things that I've discovered talking to engineers, people that physically make things. Shout out the homie Toki, Toqi, Drew Henson, founder, CEO, innovator. This guy made something that's literally in space and got into vapes, and he taught me this. You push that button in most vapes and it goes up, right? And then it doesn't maintain that. It keeps going a little beyond it. It's just the nature of the power and the technology within hardware for vapes, right?
Right.
As it's gotten better, we've been able to change the technology or alter it based on the power and things, and the connections and things like that. But what I find really interesting and consistent with you guys is how effective that really is. Because when I pushed the button 3 times, it changes the voltage.
It has the manual mode so that you can change the voltage just for your starting point.
Yeah. So I love the starting, because the starting point is huge, because depending on the oil, that's where the results change based with the never burn. Exactly. So it's not going to burn the distillate, but ultimately the people that vaping distillate, they want the clouds, but they sacrifice flavor for these clouds, but they don't want it to be burnt, obviously. So that's still, check it off. That's huge. This shit rips. When I
they do rip. You got to be careful.
When I turn it up to the middle power or even the top power on this, 3.2, 3.4, this shit It's like I'm a dragon. It's amazing.
Yeah, and it's a smooth
I
hit.
smoke. Oh, go ahead.
I said, and it's a smooth hit. You're not getting that super harshness in the back of your throat.
Correct. Now, this is Alien Labs here in California. This is their cured resin products. I've got their Connected. I've got their Alien Labs. I've got their cured resin all through here. I hang out on the 2.8 on this. And the experience every single time, when you use that word, it like tapers to it and tapers off. Like I actually physically notice that because it kind of starts off a little light and you're worried that it's going to rip. And like that first 2 to 3 seconds of me pushing the button and ripping, it is a little light, but that's because it's physically getting up to that 2.8 for the oil. And then because I never once have tasted like it's burnt this oil.
Yep.
When I've been at the 2.8. Obviously, you started off at 3.2 or 3.4, it's already hotter. Right?
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, that's the whole point, right? That's the point of the never burn. So you don't taste that burn.
Just wanted to share that I feel like that's actually validly true. I use these vapes more often and more consistently than others, and it actually stresses me out not to have this. Kind of funny. You used that word premium when we were at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah.
I really wanted to chat about what sets Vuber apart in that premium space. I just showed you another brand a second ago. We'll leave them nameless. They'll get their own damn episode. But what makes Vuber different? Because you've got gold. Remember, there was a Kim Kardashian candy pen a few years ago.
Right.
You've got these rose gold. You've got these beautiful smart techs. And then in the nicotine space, you can play fucking Tetris on the screens and stuff.
I know. What?
So premium. What does that mean to Vuber and your team? And how does that translate in your products?
Well, I think so. Our products, the Pulse line specifically, if we're just talking on the retail side of things for the batteries, like the Pulse line does have a higher price point, and I think it's justified with the technology that it involves. And then also, we have our defective rates down to under 1% on all of our batteries. We've worked super hard to get those down. We have a 2-year warranty to back your product. We guarantee it it's a limited lifetime warranty. So the lifetime of the battery,
wow,
which is around 2 years. So you're just getting a product that's guaranteed to last you for 2 years. And then also the technology just adds so many elements to consumption. Like you're going to get more out of your carts. You're going to get to use your carts till the very end without that, burnt, icky taste. So I think you have said a word before about the Vuber ecosystem. And I love that because it really does change how your cart and your battery work together. So I think when we say premium, they're sleek looking, they're durable, they're guaranteed. I think all of those things are really important when you're spending a little bit more money on a product that is going to last longer and just do more for you.
It is an ecosystem. You guys have, it's 8 patents. That's the number?
So we have 23 filed, 9 of them are granted.
9 granted, 23 filed. I mean, when you think about innovating, you think about using technology to solve problems. That is at the core of what Vuber stands for in the cannabis space specifically. And I want to tie this part in. I told you at the beginning of the episode or before we started that we were going to be chatting a little bit about Washington's market and how it's unique from other people and from other places, right?
Yeah.
The market is legacy, but it's not Colorado. It's the West Coast. You've got Canadians there that were growing weed and legacy operators. You've got Washington operators. And Spokane's not Seattle. Then you've got Oregon. You've got this whole region of unique people that have this legacy nature, this passion, and it makes them a little bit smarter about cannabis. So when you think about delivering this premium experience, and we've got this question here, is the no-burn technology directly correlated with the Quartz you talk about, or are they two different benefits, right? That's a question that comes from people that really know what they're talking about, what they're looking for. Yeah. And so by even just providing that level of innovation of that technology, by having these patents, it's premium in nature.
Right.
Exactly. And then you add in the warranty, and then you add in some of these other elements. It's powerful. And so we'll let you answer the question now first before we go on.
Yeah. So the other piece that I was going to mention was the Quartz side of our business, working with producer processors and other brands to bring on this premium hardware for their cannabis brands. So
the batteries aren't Quartz. The batteries are the batteries.
The batteries are the never burn. And then we have the patent on the Quartz technology that is in our cartridges and all-in-ones that we offer. So it's a Vuber hardware. We can co-brand or customize rather. And so the Quartz is something that we're really pushing in 2025. We started in 2024, kind of ramping things up about that after we got some research back on the, we partnered with Adapt, which is an ISO certified lab in UK that did some testing for us on degradant products coming off of the cartridges. And so what we found was that there was 329% more silica shedding in ceramic versus quartz.
Wow.
So we've had this patent for a little while on the carts and haven't really done much with it because we really wanted the evidence to be behind what we're saying. And the results came back pretty much spot on with what we thought. So there was some other findings in there, and that's all linked on our website as well. The actual report is there. So for anybody who wants to take a look at that and see what it talks about, it's a great research paper. So
that's huge. That's huge. I mean, I get it. Like cannabis has had numerous studies in various aspects of this industry and the products or these other elements, but not a lot of them in any one area at the end of the day. And so you guys are definitely at the forefront of the science element of a lot of the vaping things. And I think, again, going back to this core Vuber culture, this ecosystem, this premium nature, I think all of that really ties in and goes kind of hand in hand with each other. And so circling back to the Washington, the culture there, you're from there, you born and raised there?
Yeah, I've been here 36 years.
Washingtonian through and through. When you now combining your travels in the last 3 years of cannabis and being aggressively traveling in the market the last 2 years, talk to me a little bit about your thoughts on the Washington cannabis market and what makes that unique and special. Let's keep it on some positives there first, on like some of those elements.
Yeah,
it's too easy for us to break down all the negatives because it's been the same way for almost a decade.
For sure. Well, something that sticks out to me, actually, I had a friend come up from Denver and we went into a dispensary here, Kush 21 in Spokane, and he was blown away at the vibes. He was like, that was probably the most fun that I've had in a dispensary ever.
I love that.
You walk in, there's music playing, the people are happy. I think the culture around especially Kush, the Kush stores they just have great energy anyways. So that stuck out to me because when I do walk into other dispensaries and other places, I think sometimes that element is missing where it's more, retail, like very store-like. And so you're not walking in and talking to your homies about what, product you pick up. So I think that sticks out to me as one of the coolest parts about Washington. We are a mature market. As you were speaking, people they know what they want. They're a little more picky about products that they choose because they've been through, it's 11 years or something like that. So I just think that we have also the best weed.
Wow. Just coming straight out with it, huh? Just straight to the top. Okay. No, I'm just kidding. That was that Vuber times Alien Labs rip. No, I feel that though. For a long time, I would agreed with you. Living down here in California, I'd say I'd have to have switched that to down here. But when it comes to cannabis retail, bang for buck, Washington, Oregon, Cali's race to the bottom. I just bought a half ounce of some OG down here for $70 the other day. Like that's Washington prices. That's Oregon prices to some extent. Quality. It's this balance.
Yep.
You smoke, right?
Yeah.
I'll be smoking with you when we link up. We always be smoking fire. You obviously always got the vapes, right? But you be smoking fire.
Yeah.
When someone asks you, you from Washington? Bet. I'm about to be out there here soon. What should I try? What is that? What is Brittney's 5 recommendations for Washington?
5? Oh boy.
Hit me with your top 3 and maybe I'll push you for 2 more.
Well, I think the thing that I have a hard time with is I've pretty much only vape and I get Vuber extracts.
Okay, so that's one of them. So you're obviously biased and you're choosing the Vuber, but I'll co-sign the bias. That shit is super turkey. That shit's like 7 to 12% every time.
Yeah, it's the Tangy is my absolute favorite.
Yeah.
And then Parks and Rec has some really good carts and disposables, and shout out them because they also use some of our hardware. So, but they have their huckleberries, delicious, and then I would say Blue Roots is probably another one that I would recommend. I really like Blue Roots.
Do you purchase cannabis or pay attention to supporting Spokane local versus Seattle local, or does that play into any part of your stuff?
I look for things that I'm familiar with more so. I think that that's where I'm comfortable at is I like to purchase from companies that I know. I have a lot of homies that work with cannabis, and so I try to support that way, I would say. I'm not necessarily purchasing based off of just the price or any of that. I think it's more so just trying to support where the homies are at. And I feel like they do the same for us. If you see Vuber on the shelves, all my homies like take pictures. They're like, we got a Vuber extracts cart. So that's also part of that like culture piece that I was talking about. It's a pretty tight knit community in Spokane specifically. So that's kind of where I go, I guess, in making decisions about how I purchase what I purchase.
That's fair. That's fair. And that also too, it helps us give, there's different, I mean, you're a legacy consumer at the end of the day, right?
Right.
I mean,
right.
we both were buying weed from my partner back in the day at one point.
Yeah. Right.
So
in the Pizza Hut break room, honestly.
So funny to think about that. You know what I'm saying? Now, I wanted to circle back a little bit. We go from what makes the Washington community unique or different and some of these special products. Obviously, you're a vapor, right? You sell vape products, so you're interested in the competition of vapes. When I was out there, I got some vape from Dewey Farms. I got some solventless from Constellation. There's really great dabs still from Northwest Extract, aka Refine, right?
Yeah.
There was a lot of products there on the menu. And I think one of the things that makes Washington unique is how many different brands and SKUs there really are in those dispensaries. There's still a lot there. And with you guys, I look at your guys' cartridges that you just pulled up there, your Tangy, the Super Lemon Haze, these different SKUs. You guys actually have a product lineup for sale in Washington State through a partnered extraction company. And it's, to some extent, it's truly the proof of how great really good oil can be in the right vehicle, right? In the right house, if you would. And so some of the next questions I wanted to ask you is, it is going to be around Quartz and these cartridges. And could we do a little show and tell with the one you have right there by chance?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is, go ahead.
No. So my question right here is obviously the packaging is one thing, that's your product line, but ultimately, what do you feel, or what does the science say about how Quartz makes that type of oil special? And I know you mentioned this, the silica shavings and some of the science behind ceramic versus this, but when we talk about elevating the products, what does Quartz do in your guys' eyes, or what does the science say that it truly elevates that resin in there?
Well, I think it has a lot to do with the temperature, right? We're talking about temperature precision. So the quartz is going to heat really quickly and cool really quickly. It has an more even burn as well across, or more heating, I should say, not burn, across the atomizer. So our quartz technology, and especially paired with Never Burn, like we're talking about, is that ecosystem that creates the perfect environment for your terps and your cannabinoids. It keeps all of that intact so that you're getting the full effects of, your concentrates. And I think for the medicinal community that this is a super important piece because
precision, accuracy.
Yeah, they need accuracy and they need the full benefit of their medicine, right? So I think that when you're talking about certain types of oils, one, the quartz side of things, obviously, because of that precision temperature, I think paired with our Never Burn tech, it just really creates that perfect environment for your concentrates.
Because the concentrates they're housed in that cartridge.
Right.
And so they're there over time. There's this element of heating and cooling that goes into this equation, and figuring out how to decrease that time of heat without burning it is a balance, and then getting it to cool down before reheat is a balance.
Yes.
And then I would imagine that the oil temperature and the viscosity when that pen is warming up, that this, there's just a lot of moving parts, right?
Yes, like a synergy. It all works together.
Or they need to, and that's what makes this Vuber ecosystem with Quartz and the battery, the never burn in the battery and the Quartz here to create this perfect ecosystem where not too much is happening to have negative impact on the actual oil and the flavor.
Yes. And I think another thing to be said about that is that it works. It's great for consumers who actually care about, their cannabis experience and how they're consuming and getting all of those benefits from the terps and the cannabinoids. But it also works on the other side of that for the customers who don't understand those dynamics. And so it takes the guesswork out for them. Mm-hmm. And I think especially like we talked, like Florida is one of our best-selling states. I think Florida is a great example because there is a huge community there of older medical users. And so it just takes that guesswork out. You don't have to be a connoisseur to know, that you're getting the full benefits from your concentrates using this system. Which also, I guess, leads to the thing about education, right? Like getting our stores to educate customers on those benefits and just what our system, how it works, the never burn, all of that.
So. I think that's pretty interesting. Because you guys have CPG, you guys understand the importance of these retailers and their needs maybe a little bit better than other hardware companies, because it's a fine balance of meeting them where they're at and what they need, being at the forefront of consumer demand and innovation and technology, but while also having to deal with the complaints about, oh, my cart's clogged, or, oh, I'm burning this, or it tastes all damaged, or it's whatever, or terpene degradation, or all these things. I feel like you guys are at the forefront of the science for vaping and have a better, more thorough understanding than most of those different variables. It's like musical chairs with vape parts and consumers and retail and terps and timing, right?
Yeah.
So crazy. So, Brittney, I want to kind of end this part on the Quartz about where do you guys see these patents and Quartz and this never burn target? Where is that going to be taking you guys in 2025? And ultimately, how does that kind of shape the experiences again for your customers?
Yeah. So like I said, we're doing a pretty big push to get the information out that we have on the Quartz research that we did. So I think for 2025, looking forward, obviously we want to bring on some bigger contracts. We work with, several smaller producer processors, but I think really getting the big push to get on to bring some bigger brands on this year. We're also looking at licensing partners, so companies that want to use our patent and use the Quartz technology in their already developed products is another big push that we would like to do. We just joined Seed Talent for a training platform, to get the word out to bud tenders, and I think education for them. We included a piece on the Quartz in that, even though, we're not selling the Quartz carts necessarily in the store, just to have more even consumer education on why Quartz is a superior option to ceramic.
I've been vaping ceramic for a long time. And if you ask a lot of distillate, live resin, cured resin brands, that was the best. It is the best. It was the best. It'll always, maybe not now. I think they're getting a little bit used to hearing that it's not the only option. But for a long time, that was it. And so it's been so refreshing to work with you guys and hear Quartz. There's other groups pushing cubic zirconia, which would be diamonds, right, at the end of the day. And these various tools that exist and resources that are out there in the earth to create this technology and these devices. So as we explore further in to 2025, you just mentioned your guys' goals and some of the things you're going to be focusing on. And, can you elaborate a little bit on maybe the collaborations or these licensing partners or some of these custom deals and hardware things that you guys are rocking?
Yeah. So we have a partnership in Las Vegas with a distribution company that works with some of the larger companies that we work with. Here in Spokane, I guess from headquarters, we've got some good ones. Parks and Rec is another local company here, or Lilac Labs, and they utilize our Quartz all-in-ones. So they've been a fantastic partner with us. Their concentrates are fire, and they're who we partner with for Vuber extracts as well. And huge shout out to them because they're great. We also have some Alaskan companies. Good Cannabis in Alaska is one that has brought on our carts recently. They made the switch from ceramic to Quartz, which, as we talked about earlier before this, sometimes it is hard to get people to make that switch when they already have an established brand.
It's timing. That's the one, because you're rolling out products. That's really comes
well,
out.
And that's what happened is they were dissatisfied with whatever with whatever was going on with their current distribution. And so it was total, just good timing to meet with them. And they were really excited about the switch, and they've been great customers as well. So I think just in terms of trying to get the knowledge out, we're willing to send samples wherever they need to go. We want people to try this. I've gotten some pretty good feedback off of LinkedIn. We've been making some noise on there, trying to shake things up and really, I guess, just keep pushing that Quartz conversation. And so I urge anybody who's interested to reach out to me and get some samples and try it for yourself. And you can
give it a shot, right? I mean,
what's
all it takes is you guys just send the address over. We put you in. Reach out to me. Reach out to Brittney here. We're on LinkedIn. We're streaming right now. Anybody that's interested, reach out. We're happy to get you samples. You don't have to do business today or next year.
No, yeah,
it's about
R&D.
It's about innovating R&D. It's about taking that syringe and squirting it in there and just seeing what it tastes like in something different, man. You never know. It could be better. It could be worse.
Right.
But it's free for you to get these samples, and it's free for you to take your time to try them out. So don't overthink it.
People are hesitant also on that note. Like some of the, companies that I've reached out to for transparency, it's like they don't, people don't want to switch things up. And we kind of talked about that earlier, is they're happy with where they're at or whatever. But I think the research for me is what has been the most exciting piece of that, because there's a lot of numbers in this ADACT report that are surprising. 329% more silica is one thing, but there's also other degradant products in there that kind of raised some questions, like the aldehydes and things like that. So
yeah,
I just think that the research part of it is really exciting. If people are willing to read it and look at it, it's worth a shot of giving it, giving it
100%. And this actually leads me into the next section here, which is about just like the vaping consumers as well as vaping B2B, and kind of like what you're noticing as trends, and maybe like some of these pain points or like priority things or buzzwords that people are focusing on. Like, when people hear ceramic, why do they choose that that's the best? Why do they go down that black hole, or why do they go down that rabbit hole so aggressively? Since you've joined with Vuber, that's not a real question. This is me spitballing right now. But since you've joined Vuber, this is the real question. What have you noticed that has changed since back then to now in terms of the vape industry, both consumer and business?
So I think that one of the biggest things that I've noticed, obviously, is the rise of disposables, all-in-ones. Those, have taken over everything. I don't necessarily see that being as an issue that's super sustainable. I think that as we see how much waste is coming from that market, it's really, and we offer an all-in-one market as well, or line as well. But I think that it does take away the focus of, like, just because convenience, you can go and grab it and then throw it away when you're done. I think that that's probably the biggest shift that I've seen, is trying to compete with that market from our retail side. So the pulse batteries, right? And I've walked into stores and they're like, oh, we don't need any batteries. We don't sell batteries, but they have carts on the wall. And it just doesn't make sense sometimes when you're like, well, I understand you guys are focused on disposables, but people still buy carts, right? So that focus has been some kind of a hurdle to work through, right? Is how do we convince people about, one, sustainability, that, it's so wasteful.
We're telling people that they should care about something that they don't currently care about, whether it's enough or at all. Right.
And like I was saying before, the pulse, our pulse line, or any of our batteries, typically last 2 years or more. So it's just a lot more sustainable and better, to have that option. So
something that lasts longer is more sustainable than something that is a use it and throw away, folks. It is as simple as that. When we're talking trash, when we're talking throwing things away in landfills, stuff going in the ocean, stuff sinking to the bottom, stuff poisoning waters or spilling or whatever it is.
Well, in lithium-ion batteries, they're not disposed of properly. People just throw them in the garbage, So we have Vuber Earth. It's a program that we offer to consumer, or to our customers, to send in their old broken batteries, make sure they're cleaned and don't have cannabis on them. But they can send that into us and receive 25% off their next order on our website. And then we work with Call to Recycle, and we tear apart all the batteries and recycle the lithium ion appropriately. That's one of the projects we're going to be ramping up probably later this year to get a little more coverage and start working with dispensaries on having drop boxes and things like that. But that's a probably Q3 mission. But for now, that's what we're doing.
I mean, that's huge, right? I mean, again, like we talk about sustainability issues. We talk about people. These are real things that people really care about. You guys live in Washington State. People know that around the country. That's one of them hippie states, right?
Yeah.
A lot of green people. When I lived in Washington, it's been 6 years. In 2 weeks, it'll be 6 years since I've lived there, Brittney. Time has flown.
That's crazy. Yeah.
And I can still sitting here right now, driving around LA. I do see laundromats that offer clean washes or the fold and dry, all that kind of stuff, fold and washes or whatever. But in Seattle, 10 years ago, I saw 50 of them things around. It has been at the forefront of Washington's community to be sustainable, to buy that way, to think about it, recycling. There are still states that don't have recycling programs,
right?
Let alone cannabis companies that do that. And so I really appreciate and applaud your company and your team for prioritizing that and doing it. And big shout out to you guys for creating that send the batteries in, get 25% off program. It's a great way to start. And I look forward to hearing what you guys do with your retail program.
Yeah, we're excited about it too. We had an intern who worked for us last year who was working on the stewardship program for the nation, but it's a little more complicated also because of shipping laws and also traveling with, cannabis product between state lines. We were trying to get things delivered, the recycled bins delivered to us so that we could dispose of them properly. We're just trying to be creative, but there are some laws in place that keep us from doing that on a national scale. So we are going to just start in Washington and see how we can get the program going here. So
can we talk a little bit about misconceptions in vapes?
Yeah.
So we've touched on this one so much already, but ceramic is no longer the only best option there for vapes. So that's a misconception, is that it's the best and only option.
Right?
There are a variety of, and can we also touch on the misconception that postless is somehow better?
So that was my next thing in the trends would be that we've been asked a lot about the postless option for the all-in-one specifically.
What I want these cannabis companies to understand is that great oil should be available in classic technology that could be older, the more recent era or generation, and every iteration that comes year after year. As a company, it's not the consumer's responsibility to innovate for you. It's your responsibility to innovate for us. And supply and demand will react, and that will happen as customers are happen to introduce to it, right?
Yeah.
And so we hear these words, postless. We hear these words, ceramic. The wick was the popular thing when I first started vaping in 2015 and 16, right? And there used to be plastic tips back on vapes back then.
Right.
So obviously things have changed and grown, and there's a lot of misconceptions. So at the forefront of Brittney, when you are out on the road, you're talking with these bud tenders, you're talking with these buyers, talking with these brands.
Yeah.
Big muscle, big ego brands, right? We'll get to the fact that most of them are dudes here in a little while, right?
That's a thing.
That's a thing. So when you go to these conversations, what are some of the misconceptions you constantly hear that just make you cringe and just start talking like your kids? You get the ick. You know what I'm saying? What are some of these misconceptions, Britt?
I mean, I think most of the conversations that I'm having are around the ceramic and quartz conversation. I think that the postless thing has been a big one as well. That we've even had people refuse to even take our samples because they're not postless, even though they have the quartz technology. They just are stubborn or stuck in whatever thought process they're going through to not even give something another chance.
Ceramic is ceramic, and posts are posts, and postless is postless.
Yeah, and there's just nothing else. It's like black or white, and there's no open mind to try other things, it just is wild to get a rejection in some ways, and it doesn't happen often, but it does happen. And it is something that is a conversation. I've had several times about the postless stuff is that like, we are working on a postless because obviously you have to, adapt to what is. Yeah.
The demand is there. You're getting at.
Demand is there, but I still would put up our quartz all-in-one against a postless ceramic any day. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as a reviewer, I'll be the first to be there and sit there and say like, yo, I would have to sit there and review 30 days and write notes about it and then try another one for 30 days, the exact same oil. And even then, bro, that's not an identical test.
Right.
Different months, different seasons, different diets, different foods. There's too many moving parts on that.
Yeah,
so
there's a lot of variables.
What I want people to understand is that it's so hard to sit here and say it's the best or it's the only option. I'm going to go back to what I said. Great things should be created in a variety of vehicles. I can buy Coca-Cola 2 liter, small cans, big cans, tall cans, regular cans, bottles, Mexican bottles, Thailand bottles, American bottles, plastic. I can buy it 80% plastic recycled, 20% new plastic. Like that's, oh my, come on. I can buy Coke every way. You see what I'm saying?
In any way. Exactly.
So I always will be the one to sit here and say to the big vape companies out there that are making any variety of oil, please give it to me in more vehicles than just the one that you like the most, because I promise you that there are enough of us out there that we will gravitate towards the one we like if you give us the ability to choose.
Exactly. I think having the ability to choose is exactly it. Obviously we are all different types of consumers and have different types of needs. And I think there's more than one option for sure.
And I co-sign Vuber as being a great one of those options, right? Which is why on RMR, we work with people that we recommend to do business with. I tried this, I used it. We earned the opportunity to work with y'all, and now we get to champion it as one of the resources people should consider if they're working to be one of the best options. If you believe you have great oil, Vuber amplifies great extracts, and it is simple as that through their batteries, through their cartridges. Now we're going to continue on. Regulations is tough, Brittney. We hear people bitching all the time about regulations. And I'm not here to pour gasoline on the fire and make it worse. Fire puns intended, because we are dealing with fires here in Los Angeles. But the reality is it's a shit show in cannabis, and the regulations are tough. How did you guys stay ahead of the curve and be a great hardware, cartridge partner, battery partner for all these different moving regulations across the country, considering you guys are now in a variety of states and countries?
Yeah. So, number one, I think you have to know your markets, right? Like that's something that you have to constantly stay up on, is keeping up with what the regulations are. And that's a pretty big daunting task, I guess, when you're working in 33 states. So it's a lot to keep up on that stuff, but I think mostly is communicating, networking, talking to people, what's going on in those markets, that I'm not in. I think I have a pretty good connection base with a lot of people on LinkedIn. That LinkedIn's actually been a really great resource for finding out a lot of those things, right? And getting to go down those rabbit holes. As far as a vape company, I think that we have a pretty high standard for our products. And so we definitely want to be in line with regulations. Take Florida, for example. We're getting a little more, I guess, what do you call it? Like we're becoming more of a household name in Florida because of our presence there. And so we've had several of the companies reach out to us. And so you have to go through this entire process with the state of Florida to get approved to even be there. So we have all of our SDS sheets and all of those things that are in line with Florida rig. So I just think, it's just about knowledge. You just have to communicate with people and the people who are working in those states, and just really stay up on what's going on in those places.
It's a never ending.
It's never ending. It's
a never ending intentional commitment to research, right? And to being again at the forefront and understanding. Because if you don't understand your customers and their pain points in those areas, it can be very difficult, especially if you're not able to help them and answer some of those questions.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what you just said. Is the different markets require different things, and so. Oscar, our rep down in Vegas, sees something completely different than our rep in Michigan. They're different. So,
since you've joined Vuber and been in cannabis with us in the industry, right? I remember going back and having these conversations with you and really just being so excited for you to join, the space. What do you feel has been some of the most important factors into your growth as a successful woman leader in cannabis now? Because I feel like you definitely came in and you were new, so you're a nobody. And then you worked your way up in your business and your brand. And now you've put yourself in different markets to build relationships and meet people and continue supporting. And so talk to me a little bit about how all of that, like, what was that like when you committed to doing and taking that steps? Like, what was the thought process in some of that for you to get to where you are? You're the director of sales for a pretty sizable company now, Brittney. So what was some of those steps for you to get to that point?
Well, I think one thing that really sticks out to me about that is connection, right? I love people. I love connecting with people. I think I also very much love our products and stand behind what we're doing, and I believe in it. And so I think just kind of pour it all in when I started going to events. You know, I'm a pretty outgoing person, but when you are new to an industry, you know, I kind of like to observe. I spend a lot of time with you, watching how you interact with people. But I think the biggest thing is just having it's integrity. It's like, I believe in what I'm selling, and I believe that it's offering a better experience for people who use cannabis. And that, I think, is what is the most important, is that I create relationships and have conversations with people just about that. And so for me as a woman, you know, you had mentioned, you know, a male prominent or predominantly male industry, I think it is something that I've had to like kind of know my shit, because if you don't, you know, you're just the girl who doesn't know what she's doing. And so it's been a learning curve for me, for sure. And like going to different markets and trying to explore those and how to work within those markets has definitely been challenging at times, but I'm pretty outgoing, and I feel like, you know, I'm eager to learn and I want to learn. So I think that that's kind of led me to where I'm at, is just being able to absorb and take information in and connect with people on a very personal level and have integrity behind the products that I'm, you know, selling.
You and I had we didn't have the same tribe in the music world, but back in the Pacific Northwest, you mentioned the vibes at the dispensaries. We see those people at the bars and the concerts we go to. We smoke with people at the festivals we attend regularly in different markets, right? Yep. And so what you've been doing in this building community and being friendly and supporting people, you know, you're not just a mom to your family, but you have been one of those energies where we're taking care of our tribe. We're being friendly and supportive, and it came naturally because music does that with us. But we did so much overlapping and similar that was probably easier for us to do in this space, because we've already been doing that for a decade prior to being here.
Yeah, I think the music part of my life definitely helped. It is an overlap, and
you still do it.
Yeah.
We're still, come on.
9 years of that, right?
Let's go.
But I think that you're right that, you know, it is a lot of the same people, and music and cannabis culture in itself have such a huge crossover. And so it is easy to walk into rooms and have those same conversations because they are the same people. And yeah, I think that that has been a huge kind of launching, you know, factor of mine, is having that experience in the music industry, working this way.
When it comes to supporting women in cannabis, I'm a dude, so I have a bunch of cool ass women homies. I feel like those people are all leaders, but I'm a leader, so I gravitate towards leaders. There's obviously women in the space that exist. They maybe flow through. They have the job. They're a part of the industry. They go to events, but maybe they're not getting that same attention or as the leaders, right? Or those models that are at so many different events at these dude-run companies, right? So the question that I have here is, you know, I hear a lot of women say that, you know, and I hear this all the time in all spaces, but when we're specifically talking about women, is that, you know, it's that, what is it they call the crabs in a barrel mentality, where women aren't always necessarily down to help other women. Have you run into that yourself? And if you have, how did you overcome that?
That women are not willing? Is that what you said?
Yeah, like that crabs in the bucket mentality. Yeah. You know what I mean? Where you just notice yourself, you know, getting positioned out or boxed out of opportunities by other things. Have you noticed that for yourself? And if so, how have you overcome that?
So I haven't really seen that a whole lot with the women that I work with pretty closely. I guess I don't really know how to answer that. How would I overcome it? Because I haven't really experienced.
No, that's fair. Yeah. So then the pivot question then is, how would you like to see people supporting women greater then? Like, what are some examples where maybe people, whether it's allies or women, who maybe aren't so good at it or struggle with it? How could you make some, because you're good at it. You're good at supporting other women. So what are some ways that you could help, you would like to see more people doing something?
I think that the biggest thing is listening. Like, I feel like the women in this industry know what they're doing. And I think that to me is what has been the biggest takeaway from working with some of the men that I've worked with or tried to work with, is that I don't know what I'm doing, or that, they're already, again, set in their ways, and don't want to listen to another option. Where I see a lot of women voices on LinkedIn specifically, and most of them are, very supported and have a lot of, have a good tribe around them as well. But I think the biggest thing is just to listen and trust that women know what they're doing in this industry. And, it's a level of respect, I think, that shouldn't have to be earned.
Love that. I appreciate you sharing that feedback. It's not always an easy conversation there. And especially, we're good at it. We do this. We came from music, keeping women safe, right? And keeping people from being dehydrated and dying at festivals. Like on that moment, it's not a woman or a guy. It's like, you're just trying to help somebody, not seize, right?
Right.
Not pass out. And so it's like, if we could get back to the point where it's, obviously it's guys, women, LGBTQ plus, there's all these different humans in the space. And we want to offer respect to all that. But at the end of the day, just the respect shouldn't even have to be earned. It should just be given naturally, because we're all humans.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So let's get into the fun ones. Are you ready, Britt?
All right. I'm ready.
All right. So in terms of you as a vapor, what's the most exciting cannabis product you've tried recently? Anything stand out?
I think the last thing that stood out to me was the Parks and Rec Huckleberry live resin that they have. It's so fire. It's my favorite.
Parks and Rec Huckleberry. She said, "You're my Huckleberry."
You're in Washington. Yeah, it's so good. It's super sweet. It just tastes really good, and I love the high. So that's something that I have been buying a couple times. I mean, like I said, I get a lot of stuff from Vuber, so
let's go.
That's typically what I smoke. But the Huckleberry from
one of those Vuber ones could have been on the list too. You went with Huckleberry. I think that's
damn. Okay.
No, it's all good. It's all good. It can't be all Vuber.
No, it can't. But on that note, the Tangy from Vuber is my favorite. I said that earlier.
Go. I co-sign that as well, y'all. I co-sign that as well.
Tangy
okay, here's a good one, Britt. Here's a good one. If you could invent one futuristic vaping device, what would that be?
One futuristic vaping device.
Yeah, see, these are the ones I couldn't tell you ahead of time, man. See, I got to.
I know. I'm like, holy shit! Put me on the spot.
Yeah.
So I guess something that I think would be cool would be to have a vape with like. I don't know, because they already do the video game ones, but I'm like a super big fidgeter, so I like to have things like I'm over here clicking my pen this whole time. I guess having something that has, I'm not like into this fidget spinners, but having like fidget gadgets all over it, because I'm always like tossing my vape around in my hand, like the little drop one that we have. I always like put it in circles. So having something like that to fidget with, I guess, would be a good one.
I love that. I love this balance between functional. We won't call it fidgety. We'll call it more functional. And then, because fidgety is functional in people's daily life, they like to function, they have to be doing something, just like they need the jacket to protect them from the rain, right? So
right.
I'm with it. I like that. I like the games. I want to see them get a little bit like better into the dabbing world. We only really have the great 2 devices, maybe 3 devices, the Dr. Dabbers, the Cartas, and the Puffco. So I just want to see those continue to improve. More companies get into that. I think we're missing variety there.
Yeah, actually, that's a great point. I do think that there is a huge market there for improving that line of devices, and Vuber may be on that list. So
I got a fun one for you, right? I got the custom American one, right? If you had your own brand of vapes, yours, Brittney Rose's, and you were placing your order with Vuber to customize your own pulse batteries right here, what would be your first
cheetah print? That's my favorite color. I tell everybody that. The cheetah
print. I love it. Okay, here's another one. If you were gonna pair that product line and you were gonna with a music experience, who's performing at that music experience?
Zed's dead. I'm an EDM girl. Zed's dead all
Zed's
the
dead.
way.
Yeah, and okay, so then you would do the cheetah print, but if you got to collab with Zed's dead, what would you put on it?
The Northern Lights, because that's their first EP.
Oh, what a great look at you. See, I knew that was going to be a good one. I knew that was going to be a good one. Okay, so going back to like the trends and misconception, what's a myth that drives you nuts in all of cannabis?
A myth?
Yeah. What's some bullshit in cannabis that just drives you nuts? What's a myth?
So I mean, it's like the typical one that you always hear, but there's still so much stigma around being somebody who uses cannabis daily. And I think the biggest one that fucking pisses me off, that pisses me off is, that we are not professionals. You know what I mean? As I'm cussing and yelling on your LinkedIn, but it irks me so bad to hear that, because most of the people that I know who are wonderful professionals use a lot of cannabis, and I think that it really gets me, obviously.
No, I love that, and I appreciate you standing up for us as professionals. I was just at CES. The biggest question was, so what industries do you guys cover? Well, I would say music, cannabis, and sports, and I felt inclined to say, but don't concentrate on the fact that I do cannabis. Focus on the fact that I'm here to feature you in technology. And because you could see the reaction of
it changes everything. It changes the dynamic of your conversation entirely. And
I don't personally care, but I'm definitely the one that's going to cater my conversation to make sure I get my mission achieved.
Yeah.
Right? Which was to make magic happen in tech no matter what, but definitely still can feel the stigma today.
Yeah.
After being at Las Vegas CES 2025 for a week.
I was talking to my aunt, and I hadn't spoken to her in quite a while, and she was asking what I do, and I said that I worked in the cannabis industry, and she was like silent on the other end. And
oh my gosh.
I'm like, dang, we're still there? Like,
okay, so I'm going to go back to a collaboration element, but instead of it being personalized to you, if Vuber could collaborate with anybody and you guys were sitting there at a meeting like how we were earlier this morning, what would you say Zed's dead again as that collab, or what would your business professional recommendation be?
My business one?
And it can't be Taylor Swift. She's not attainable.
No, she's not. You know, I think nostalgia is really awesome. And so I would say, I don't know, I really like the Marvel series, things like that. Nostalgia, going back to like some of the better, like an old Seahawks logo would be super sick. I don't know. I think like I know this is nerdy, but like a series of wraps around them would be cool with like the little comics on them. And I love
No, I love that. Adult, it's not necessarily like adult, like we're talking like, you know, sexual comments or whatever. That adult,
no,
but like adult humor, like that level of like demographic.
And then the box, you know, could be branded around the same. But I think the sports team, like the older sports logos are great. And then we did a fake mock-up for Hulk Hogan. It's like bright yellow and it says Hulkmania on the side.
That's hilarious.
So, and that was just for fun. But
those are good ones. I love that. I love that.
Keep it fun.
It's interesting because, again, going back to the stigma in cannabis, your collaboration opportunities are going to be super limited. Now, I'm going to end on this question for you. So, for everybody watching, I appreciate y'all for hanging out with us. Brittney Cornwell, Brittney Rose, B Rose in the building with me, representing Vuber Technologies. She's the director of sales. You know what I'm saying? Catch her at the shows. Catch her traveling the world and the country, slanging these vapes and batteries. So, to end the episode, Brittney, you know, you've been in cannabis 3 years. To give you the floor on this topic is really what I was thinking about throughout the episode. Like, what's it going to be? You know, for somebody like you, for the next person, for somebody in the Northwest that doesn't know what to do next, or, you know, is trying to leave a career, go do something else, right? Go back to where you were 3 years ago. You were at a fork in the road. You're trying to figure out which move to go in next, right?
Yeah.
Remember, I think you were teaching, you're doing child care.
Direct care for kids with disabilities.
Yeah, right. And so it's like you're working with kids, you're doing something so fulfilling in so many ways, but yet you still feel the desire to do it. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? We all feel the need for change and we grow, right? We grow into things and out of things, right? And so for whatever the context is for that, I want to explore what is that advice that you have for people that are on the fence and just not ready to commit to doing something in cannabis because people don't think of, because people think it's not as professional or that stigma. So what is your advice after having to go through all of that now for 3 years? What is your advice in that realm?
I mean, at the end of the day, it's a business. And so for me, making that change was really difficult, but I also went from working in a very emotionally challenging environment. And, I personally use cannabis to help calm those nerves and those emotions and anxieties. And so when an opportunity came to apply for this position at Vuber, one, I was thinking, a nice stress-free job will be really nice. And it's not that this job is always stress-free, but even to this day, 3 years later, I don't have big emotional baggage around this job. So I think that won't be the case for every person and every position in the cannabis industry. But I do feel like if you're trying to make the switch, that there isn't really a better industry to work for. Every person that I've connected with has been so kind, and everybody, I think, really supports each other. And it's not so the music industry can be really cliquey and politics, and not that there's obviously not politics here in cannabis, but I just think what I'm trying to say is everybody that I've connected with has been very supportive and helpful. And so it made the transition very easy for me because I felt like I fit in here.
To some extent, hearing you say that makes me feel like in these other industries, it's just a job and people rely on their money for bills. So the culture of that is, why should I care more? Why should I do more? Why should I go hang out with you? You're just my coworker. Why should I care about you as the person? And I think today's environment of humans and the job and thing, and right now obviously there's various weather things going on around the world, and there's so many things going on all the time. I think we're starting to connect more as humans, and music and cannabis, although music being cliquey, you go to a concert or a festival and strangers are helping you and making sure your water.
That's true too.
If you're sitting down, they'd say, "Are you okay? Are you all good?" Even
so from a consumer point of view in music, absolutely. From the back end of
it, in music industry, it's still gatekeeping, and again, because that's traditional business still.
Yeah, and I think that what you're talking about is how the consuming and the business side of cannabis mesh together. It is kind of seamless.
I wish the music and consumer side meshed together better instead of them being all VIP and secretive and gatekeeping, because then everything would improve better. The experiences would get way better. In cannabis, I think there's a lot to improve upon. But you guys are doing great work leading the pack. Brittney, I really appreciate you being a guest on the episode. One, supporting RMR, and two, supporting the culture and the science. I know that your boss, Brandon, I know he's really, dedicated a pretty large portion of his life to the science of cannabis, the science of vaping, these patents, the creations, and big respect to the entire team there at Vuber Technologies. And thank you guys again for being here. Before we get you out of here, do you have anything you'd like to leave the people with as a final statement?
I don't think so, other than maybe go check out our website. There's a ton of information on the Quartz technology. We've got all of the articles and the research posted there. And if you need batteries or customization or carts, message Joey or me, and I'd love to get that conversation started.
Come on, y'all. Make sure you guys tap in. What's the website for them to check out?
VuberVaporizers.com.
Beautiful.
It'll show our full product lineup there. There's a wholesale page. You can, message there as well if you're interested in wholesale. And then the Quartz cartridge page is going to have all those links directly at the top for you to check out. Amazing.
Well, thank you again so much, everybody. This was episode 132 of the RMR Podcast. Today brought to you guys by Vuber Technologies, Vuber Vaporizers. If you guys have any questions, be sure to reach out. I'm happy to respond with the information or get you connected to Brittney.